In 1803, the United States bought over 820,000 square miles from France. This land, aka the Louisiana Purchase, was new territory yet to be explored and settled. Thus starts the beginning of the westward expansion. While in the real westward expansion, it was more about settlers risking it all and moving completely to new land, carrying as much as they could on their backs, folklore, myths, and media present the Wild West as an action-packed, lawless thrill ride, romanticizing the violence and landscape. True Grit, directed by Joel Nathan Cohen, is a film about a young girl named Maddie Ross, whose father is murdered. On a quest for revenge, she's accompanied by bounty hunter Rooster Cogburn and Texas Ranger LaBeef. While True Grit is a remake off a 1969 film starring John Wayne, I think it's a bit unfair to compare the original over a remake. Therefore, I decided to go back to 1939 with another John Wayne Western, Stagecoach, directed by John Ford. This film is about a group of 8 different people, all packed in one stagecoach, going to Lordsburg, New Mexico. But in order to arrive, they must pursue through the threat of Indian tribe Geronimo. Both of these films have one core similarity. They're all about the journey. Each film starts in a small Wild West town, showing the day in the life of citizens, from people wandering the streets to live hangings. In these towns, our main characters are introduced as Maddie meets LaBeef and recruits Cogburn, and 7 out of our 8 people hop in our stagecoach. Both films use their landscapes and settings to emphasize and make you a part of the quest these characters embark. True Grit focuses on wide landscape shots, showcasing its green deserts and snowy forests. Stagecoach has a few desert shots, usually following the carriage itself through a more traditional desert. Each film also has tight, intimate spaces, like True Grit's shack or fireplace, and Stagecoach's pit stop village, or the actual stagecoach itself. Unlike most films in the Western genre, both films don't heavily rely or glorify on violence. Anytime there's a gun used, it's used when necessary. For instance, shots fired to save LaBeef's life, or a shootout on the trail between men in the stagecoach and Geronimo tribe members. Stagecoach's gunfights are more climactic than True Grit's, but True Grit's violence is much more graphic, and that's definitely due to the 71-year difference. These films may share some resemblance, but there's some clear differences. In fact, the Western genre has many myths for individual characters. Neither of these films share the same myths. True Grit only really has one myth to it, and that's a child savior. Cogburn is at first reluctant to take care of Maddie and to be responsible, making sure she doesn't really get in harm's way in the search for her father's killer. He even saves her life when she's bitten by a poisonous snake. Stagecoach, on the other hand, has multiple Western myths. Starting with John Wayne's character, Ringo Kid, he's the perfect fit for the American Adam. He's lean, intelligent, single, and his individuality makes him the hero that he is. Then there's Lucy Mallory, played by Louise Platt, who resembles the American Eve. Unlike Maddie, Lucy is just this basic snotty wife of a ranger. And finally, the film deals with the Edenic myth that in the end, where Ringo and his new love, the other female character, Dallas, goes to a ranch across the border. Speaking of which, both films end on a very different note. True Grit ends more bittersweet, taking place many years after the journey with Cogburn. Maddie goes to seek him once again, just to catch up for old time's sakes, only to find out that he's been dead for a few years. She soon stands in front of his grave with a cathartic moment to really see him one last time. Stagecoach, however, ends on a very lighthearted note. Ringo and Dallas ride off in the sunset, old classic Western fashion, shining a light of hope for their future travels ahead. Both films don't particularly show the Western expansion all that much, but they do emphasize on fictitious stories and myths of the Wild West that we love, just in a more grounded approach, which is why I have to give both Stagecoach and True Grit 4.5 stars.